Hello, this is Dennis with A1 Telephone Service and Repair, A1 Electronics. You can reach us on the web at www.a1-telephone.com, and you can also reach us at 618-235-6959. Today I want to show you a later model Mickey Mouse telephone, and this is Mark's telephone. And basically this telephone is original, it's just a later model. And in the later models, the handsets were black instead of yellow, and they still hang up with the hand and everything. And Mark has got the body of Mickey, and he did not send that in because it's not needed. So it's an original Mickey Mouse of a later model when they stopped using the older style networks and they were using these PC boards. And there's a switch right here, and I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a look at what that looks like. The switch is actually taken apart, and if you can see all the prongs on this switch here that have to fold down, and basically what you have here is a half barrel that kind of connects this switch. And I'm going to try to pick it up here and show it to you. And there's some conductors inside this half barrel that rocks back and forth. And these switches are very, very difficult to find. You know, unless you had another Mickey or phone of this nature with this type of switch in it, you're probably not going to get any of these switches. So basically, we have to take them apart, rebuild them if they need them, and take them apart and clean them if that's what they need. And these switches here are well known for causing a lot of trouble in these telephones, and so they're very hard to get anyway. And so we have to rebuild them or clean them real well. Depends on what they need. We've done both, and we do both. So basically what he's complained about, he's got a note here, and he says it seems, you know, he hadn't used this telephone for like a year or so, and then he says it seems to be much worse. He was just trying it out before he sent it in, and he says when I pick up the handset I hear dial tone but cannot dial, so he can't dial out, and the mouthpiece seems to totally be dead. The push buttons make no noise when I press them, and he's changed handsets with a spare, and and he didn't get any difference. So he's basically saying it's not dialing out, and doesn't sound like it's transmitting. Now, I did not get those problems when I connected this telephone up in our initial checkout, and this is really a part of our initial checkout and repair of this telephone. The only time that I got any kind of problem with a phone is when I moved it around a little bit when the board was still attached. And if you pressed on the board a little bit, it would do some funny things. So basically what we do is we go in and we resolder everything on the main PC board in cases like this, because you know, you have to treat it like it's going to do it at some point. Mark says there's a problem with it, and when I pushed on the board in different places, I did get some different reactions from the board that weren't right. And so I've already resoldered everything on this main PC board, and the last thing we really want to do is turn the board over and resolder the back side of this switch. So I'm just going to try to pull this around, and I want to resolder this switch in, and there's 6 connections to it. And this switch is well known for a lot of problems. And when you're soldering the back part of this board, there is no solder traces on this side of the board, is what's funny about it. The switch was a very difficult type switch that they used on these boards, because there's no solder points on this side of the board. So in a sense what they're saying is, the way it was designed is, if you solder this side, it's going to be hot enough to touch the other side and just all of a sudden become soldered. So it was a poor design, really, and they had a lot of problems with these switches. Not only do they get dirty, they start to wear out, and these solder points were an issue too. So we're going to go ahead, and I'm going to go ahead and solder them real quick, because it's one of the last things I want to do. And so I'm going to go ahead and give these a touch-up. Now I want to stay on these solder points for a little while, because the heat actually has to go all the way down through the pin and heat up the other side of the board. So you want to get these heated up a little bit more than you would normally, just so that the heat transfers and the solder transfers to the other side of the board. Another issue with these telephones was this transformer here. It basically, it's got a little weight to it, and it can be heavy, and if this phone is dropped at some point, and sometimes they weren't even soldered from the factory properly, you want to resolder all that. Now in this case, this board has all been resoldered. Now a thing that you want to watch out for is these little prongs can get bent real easily, and they're very difficult to work with, and they have to line up. They have to line up when you put this half barrel back into place. So it's kind of I didn't care for the design of this switch, the way they were designing it. Now this has been cleaned, but I want to take it and I want to clean it one last time. It's been cleaned on the conductive material in here, the contacts, and I want to run one last, and it's been sprayed and it's been scraped. So I want to do all that one last time. While I got the switch apart, I want to make sure the whole switch is totally clean, and it doesn't hurt to do it twice. So I'm going to run through it one more time. And clean them all, because we want to do this while we have this apart. This switch is difficult to deal with, it's difficult to take apart, and it's difficult to get back together again. And if you've never tried this, it might take you a couple of times before you get it right. Now I repair them all the time, so I'm kind of used to this and have gone through this before. We want to get any kind of, and even a switch, contacts in a switch, even if they look clean, and these did not look clean when I took it apart. It's been cleaned one other time. But even if they look clean, they have voltage running through them, so they can still build up dirt on the surface and build up a little film. So you want to make sure that they're totally clean. And I have a little file that I use, but I also like to use an Eversharp on them too, because that puts some cuts in them, and it roughs up the surface. And these also have a little bit of grease on them, but just want to spray that. I sprayed it. I don't like putting the grease on there because these prongs, sometimes what grease will do is it'll harden up. And when it hardens up, it'll keep these prongs, because they're not very, if you can look, I can bend them real super easily. And so they have a little bit of a tension on them, but they don't have much. And what can happen is that grease, when it gets hard, can also build a film up over the contact, but it can also keep these prongs from doing what they need to do. And these prongs have been cleaned also and scraped. but I'm going to run a cleaner across them one more time to get any kind of a film or dirt off of them. And these have to be aligned in an exact situation when I put this back together again. And this little half barrel switch here has grooves in it, and that's what these pins ride in. They ride in the grooves, and this barrel only goes in one way. So basically what you have to do is really pay attention to what you've got here and pay attention to which groove they're supposed to be in. And if you don't know which groove they're supposed to be in, you're going to have another problem, because they have to ride in a certain groove, and you have to know which ones they are. So you got to align all that, and then you have to make sure that you actually have the backside the way it needs to be. So it's not and I'm trying to do this for the video. So it's making it a little more difficult for me to, normally I would do it in a different fashion, in a different direction. Now once you have it down, you have to hold it down, or those pins, and I'm missing one back here in the back. And I kind of have to hope I jumped it right in the right place. Just taking a look and see what I need to do. You have to make sure those pins are in the exact spots that they need to be in for the contacts. And normally, like I said, I'm doing this for the video. I would normally do it a different way, but I'm trying to hold it in a fashion that the video can pick up what I'm doing here. It's not a simple task, and I've seen guys tear these up just because they get aggravated with them, and I don't blame them. Some of these switches in some of these telephones, there's another similar design that has a few more connections in it than this one, and that one is a very difficult switch to mess with. Now we want to slide our hook switch top on, and we're back to normal here, and it just locks into place. So it's not a simple little switch to work on. And if you have to actually rebuild that switch, that means you have to add conductive material in and replace the spring loaded pins to rebuild the switch. In this case, this switch did not need to be rebuilt, but it definitely needed to be cleaned, and it needed to be resoldered. So now that we have everything soldered back in that we want, we also want to make sure that any solder points before it came into the shop is not dirty in between them, because if there's any cross connect between this board, it could cause the problems that Mark is talking about, and it could actually keep you from being able to use the telephone. So everything has been soldered now on the board. The switch has been taken apart and cleaned 2 times, and we know that that's not going to be an issue any longer. But like I said, when I bent the board the last time, when I first went through it and was doing my troubleshooting and kind of initial checkout, just bending the board, so you even got to check for traces that are broke. And if you see any solder points where the trace may be broke around the solder point, you got to scratch it out and add some more solder. So, I mean, there's a little bit to it. You're kind of tracking down a problem that is not an obvious problem. So you have to do all these different little things to try to curb and make sure that you get the problem the first time around. So basically what we're going to do now is I'm going to stand the board up kind of here just for the video. And we're going to go ahead and plug the line cord in. We have dial tone. Hang up. Dial tone. Hang up. Dial tone. I want to go ahead and hang up, and I want to call, so I'm going to... These telephones, these later models, had a piezo buzzer in them instead of a bell. Now what I want to do is I want to kind of move this board around, push on it a little. Kind of hit the hook switch a little bit, just in case. You know, I want to kind of move it around and do what you might do if you were using the phone in a situation where it would be being used. And I don't see it cutting out any longer. So chances are we're probably okay with this telephone now. And what I'm going to do is I want to go ahead and dial some numbers. We know we have dial tone. We know we're seizing the line. So now what I want to do is I want to dial my numbers. I want to end in a 2. I'm going to hang up. Move the hook switch around a little bit. I don't see any loss of connection. Now what I want to do is I want to dial my numbers again. I want to end in a 2. And then I want to transmit into the handset. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every time I speak into the handset or transmit, and you see that red indicator light on the analyzer, that's an indication of 100% modulation. Now we're going to do another test on this telephone. I'm going to go ahead and plug it into a regular line, telephone line. I'm going to give you some dial tone here. And we're going to go ahead and call, say, like a time and temp number.
Good evening. Need service for your car today? Call any of our service departments or make an appointment online at Offenburg.com. Today is Sunday, July 10th. The time is 8:27. Current temperature 97 degrees. Now the weather forecast for the Belleville area. Mostly clear tonight, lows in the mid-70s. On Monday, mostly sunny, hot and humid, a high in the upper 90s. Heat index 114.
Okay. Now I want to do another test on it. Give you some dial tone. I'm going to dial my number. And it should be busy. And another thing I want to do is there's a couple of screws that are in this hook switch, and I'm going to go ahead and put them back in real quick. And then what we're going to do is, while it's still in the regular telephone line, I want to call, like, say, that time and temp number again. And the reason why I take these screws out is because I don't want any pressure on that hook switch when I'm working on it, when I'm soldering. I don't want to push the pin. I want them free. And so when it heats up, if there's any bad solder or any cold solder, I want them to do whatever they want to do. I don't want any pressure on them until after they're soldered properly. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug the telephone back into the telephone line. Give you some dial tone. I'm going to call the time and temp number again.
Good evening. Credit issues? Apply by phone anytime at 622-4600. 622-4600. Same-day approval available. Today is Sunday, July 10th. The time is 8:29. Current temperature 97 degrees. Now the weather forecast for the Belleville area. Mostly clear tonight, lows in the mid-70s. On Monday, mostly sunny, hot and humid, a high in the upper 90s. Heat index 114.
Okay, so we know that the telephone is working, and moving the telephone around like it was in a usable or a situation where it's being used doesn't seem to affect the telephone any longer. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and ring it one more time. Let that go another time. Give you some dial tone. And we're going to dial the numbers one more time. End in a 2. We're going to transmit into the handset once again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hello, hello. So basically what we're trying to do here is I'm an over-checker. I like to check the telephone out as much as I can, and I like to try to, after we go through the telephone and do whatever repair that we need to do, I like to try to make sure that nothing is going to affect the phone, and I try to reproduce anything that might happen with expansion and contraction, and while it's in a usable situation. So this telephone